Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for all being here and waiting through. On behalf of the Administration and Finance Committee, I'd like to call this meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Pell? Mr. Pell is not present? Okay.
He was here, he'll be.
Oh, lunch. Dr. Armstrong? Dr. Armstrong is present. Mr. Birkin?
Here.
Mr. Birkin is present. Mr. Castile?
Here.
Mr. Castile is present. Ms. Champagne? Ms. Champagne is not present. Dr. Clark? Dr. Clark is present. Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Harris is present. Mr. Hollis?
Here.
Mr. Hollis is present. Ms. Holloway? Ms. Holloway is not present. Ms. Mellery?
Here.
Ms. Mellery is present. Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Morris is present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. So we have quorum. First item, please.
Your consent agenda is ready for approval. Pulling item 5.1.
Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Mr. Castillo, second. Dr. Baker. Any objections? Seeing none, then next item, please.
Your first item is on page 15, item 4.2. Consideration of LDOE contracts greater than $50,000. Recommendation is to approve.
Dr. Beverly, synopsis on it?
Motion is second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion. Consider 4.2, consideration of LDO contracts greater than 50. Mr. Castillo, second. Mr. Morris? Dr. Beverly?
No comments. Tim Brock, our chief of staff, is available.
Any questions on those contracts above 50,000? Hearing none, for the audience as well. Any objections? Motion carries. Next item.
On page 24, item 4.3, consideration of federal and state grants and allocations to LEAs, Type 2 charters, Type 5 charters, approved non-public schools and community-based organizations, competitive and other. Recommendation is to approve.
You have a motion? Mr. Morris, second. Mr. Castillo. Any discussion? Motion to, any objections? Seeing none, next item, please.
On page 34, item 5.1, consideration of AG funding cycle activities, approval of fiscal year 2024-2025 allocations for individual AG statewide programs. Recommendation is to approve the allocations.
We have a motion. Ms. Mellery, second. Dr. Armstrong. Explanation, please. There are several of these on here. 1.2 million, 5 million, 140, 3 million. Thought that this might be an opportunity to learn a little bit more about these programs and what they're for. So if you just have an explanation, the 10,000 foot level. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Good afternoon, Kim Serpo, HE Director. So I'm going to kind of cue it up from our end. The HE budget was approved in December of 2023 for fiscal year 24-25. And so what we do is we provide the board with a preview of the programs that are going to be coming up for 24-25. And so with that, because the board approves the statewide programs. And so in April, June, August, and October, these 8 programs will at some point come up so that you'll get more information about the goals, the objectives, the anticipated outcomes, and the full budget. So I did hear you talk about the amounts. If the department is willing, or if you need more information about exactly what each program entails, then that's something that we potentially provide for.
Any questions from the board on any of these programs that are outlined? Seeing none, thank you very much for your explanation. Any objections? Seeing no objections, motion approved. Next item, please.
On page 39, item 5.2, consideration of program and budget revisions on AG statewide grant programs for fiscal year 2023-2024. Recommendation is to approve.
Motion? Mr. Morris, second, Mr. Harris. Any discussion? Seeing none, any objections? Hearing none, motion approved. Next item, please.
On page 46, item 6.1, consideration of legislative reports. Recommendations are to receive the reports in response to revised statute 17, section 3921.2, HR 17 of the 2023 regular session, HR 261 of the 2023 regular session, revised statute 17, section 407.101, Act 542 of the 2022 regular session, SCR 31 of the 2022 regular session, revised statute 17, section 100.10, revised statute 47, section 6301, HR 215 of the 2023 regular session, and HCR 11 of the 2018 regular session, and to approve the report in response to revised statute 17, section 3883, and authorize the LDOE to submit the report to the House and Senate Education Committees.
Thank you. Motion, Mr. Harris. Second, Dr. Baker. Any other discussion?
Second.
Dr. Baker.
Dr. Clark.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Ford.
It's one of the doctors. Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
Yes.
Superintendent Bromley, I'm interested in the report on the statewide education technology, the technology legislative report. There's so much going on, particularly in the education space today, with, conversations with regard to innovative approaches to education. The technology out there today is just moving so fast. This board has had discussions already about the expectations for how Louisiana is going to engage with AI. At the last BESI meeting, Stim Nola brought a robot that looked like one of my grandkids. I'm just really interested in the state's, vision, if you would, with regard to technology, innovative approaches, for the rest of this year at least. I know we're going to be bringing some items through Mr. Castile's committee, particularly today with conversations around LOCSTEM. But I'm just curious from your perspective if you could just share with us a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. So you have a set of, obviously, reports that are available to you that are required legislatively. But Mr. Morris was asking specifically around statewide ed tech. A few things to share here. One, we did staff a new employee at the agency that is our new Director of Academic Innovation, primarily focused around artificial intelligence and supporting the tutoring work, and also just continuing to look at ways to make education more relevant for students. And so we're excited to make some shifts internally to be able to staff that particular individual. One of the things that is happening right now, for which you should may be beneficial for you to be aware, is we are about to call together a working group around artificial intelligence, because I don't think we want to be a state that runs from that. I'm not even going to say it's coming because it's already here. And so just being able to put our teachers in position to understand some of the guidelines around artificial intelligence, where they can lean in, where they can use it to support. There was an an article in the paper today around some of our tutoring efforts that are AI-based. There's a lot of hope for what can happen in that particular space, but we also need to make sure that we have guardrails in place so that kids are safe, teachers are safe, et cetera. And so our goal is, over the next few months, we'll work with an internal group of people, some educators, some subject matter experts on AI from across the country, and we'll develop a set of guidelines that at Teacher Leader Summit this summer, we'll have some sessions where we'll introduce those guardrails to teachers and standards, so to speak, but really guardrails on how to use AI in the classroom in an effective and safe way. And I wouldn't be surprised if we adopted those and presented those this summer, and then next summer we have to change them, because this is an evolving conversation. But those are some of the things that we're doing that probably marries itself well to the request of the board to seek for innovative approaches to education annually. And so we'll be working through all of that alongside of you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, next item, please.
On page 233, item 6.2, consideration of an update report regarding the Louisiana 2024 regular legislative session. Recommendation is to receive. An updated bill tracker document was made available yesterday, and the handouts are at your side.
Have a motion. Mr. Harris. Second. Second, Mr. Morris.
Yes, sir, Mr. Burton. So you should have in front of you Ben Lemoyne, who is doing our governmental affairs now, prepared this along with Ashley Townsend. And this is a tracker of, I believe there are 65 education bills that have been pre-filed, either on the House or the Senate side. So what you have in front of you is just a hard copy of those bills. This Friday, you will receive an email with this electronically, and we will embed in there where you can click and access the bill. You can access the various information around the bill, the digest, the text, and so that will all be made available to you on Friday electronically. You also have in front of you the principal statements that the board reviewed at the February meeting. I think it's, and the officers may want to speak to this, but I think it's important to know that as the officers consider appropriate positions of the board, these will be the principal statements that are utilized in making those decisions. But you have everything that's been filed as of Friday, pre-filed, understanding that legislators still have 5 bills available for them, so you'll have more bills filed. But this is what's available as of today.
Of these bills that have been filed, anyone that sticks out that's of great concern?
I think that since they were just filed Friday, we probably need to spend some more time in review.
Yes, sir, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say on this, that any of the board members that have any questions, look at this every Friday when you get it. And let's be sure and discuss as a board on these issues and these bills, because I think it's extremely important that Bessie has a presence over at the legislature, and I think every board member needs to be involved in that as we go forward. I will say that it's early in the game. I think my last regular session, 169 bills came through Education Committee, so we just have like 65 or 70, so there's going to be probably another 100 on Senate and House side. So we're going to have to really be diligent about it every Friday. But so the process is, the officers will be discussing this with Dr. Bromley and LDOE as we go along, but we sure need y'all's input on this also.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
I just wanted to remind members that in your handout, there should be a copy of the principal statements of Bessie. So these are basically the guidelines that we agreed to use going forward in determining Bessie's general position on when we consider taking a position on any of these bills. So just encourage you to get familiar with the guidelines. And then as Mr. Harris said, as we go through this legislative session. Anytime you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, then please reach out to the officers and share with us what's on your mind. And then also want to add that as a BESI member, you have the opportunity to go to the table, testify on your own behalf, to testify on behalf of your BESI district, or if it's the general consensus of the board, and you happen to be speaking on behalf of the board, that's the third position you could potentially be taking. So just want to make sure all members are aware of those opportunities.
Thank you. Anything else? Any objections? Seeing none, then motion passes. And the next item, please.
On page 240, item 8.1, consideration of the minimum foundation program formula for 2024-2025. The department recommendation is to approve the MFP formula as outlined. Materials were recently updated to board docs, and is that correct? If it is updated, it's been adopted.
Your motion? Mr. Morris. Second. Mr. Harris. Public comment? We have a few. And who wish to speak, we'll start with David Shepard, representing Youth Force NOLA. Larry Carter, Dr. Tia Mills, and Keith Corville. Okay, Mr. Shepard.
Good afternoon. I'm David Shepard. I'm the Director of Policy and Data Strategy for Youth Force NOLA. Youth Force is the career and technical education and work-based learning intermediary for New Orleans. We work with schools, students, families, higher ed institutions, businesses, and technical training providers to build pathways that prepare all students for college and career. We also leverage our expertise to support enabling career-connected learning, policy data systems, and areas of relevancy. I'm here today to support, in particular, the Level 4 apprenticeships and internships allocation within the formula before you. Youth Force has adopted a model high school student experience in which all students are able to participate in technical training, soft skills practice, and work-based learning before they graduate from high school. These experiences benefit all students and support BESI's definition of college and career readiness. As many of you have already noted today, work-based learning such as internships and apprenticeships help prepare young people to meet Louisiana's most pressing workforce needs and high-wage career pathways. Internships offer students the opportunity to explore careers, hone their interests, practice soft and technical skills, gain valuable work experience, and collaborate with mentors. Participants gain insights into the next steps they need to take in order to achieve their career goals, as well as valuable connections to employers, and they leave better prepared for work, regardless of whether they enter the workforce immediately after high school or after post-secondary education. The work-based learning allocation within the MFP could increase the number of students who are able to participate in internships by more than 50%. If you include the work-based learning allocation in the formula, Youth Force commits to working with the department to support with implementation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next.
Yes. Good morning, members. I'm Larry Carter, President of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers, speaking on behalf of the over 18,000 members of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers. Education in Louisiana is in a state of emergency. Today I ask you to take a step towards rectifying that by keeping the promise made to educators and make this year's stipend a permanent raise. The proposed stipend will not give teachers any financial security. It will only destabilize the profession further because a teacher won't be able to predict their salary from one year to the next. To quote the Texas Teacher Vacancy Task Force, to attract teachers to the field and retain current teachers, overall compensation must be the top priority. In last year's legislative session, BESI, including some current members, did the right thing and returned an MFP formula to the legislature with a permanent raise of $2,000 for teachers and $1,000 for support staff. The House of Representatives chose not to use the money for a permanent raise, but the body, including 2 current Bessie members, passed a resolution stating that the intent for the increase in funding was to be recognized and included in the MFP formula for the 24-25 fiscal year and in future years. A promise was made to educators, and we are asking you to keep that promise. The proposed formula also makes another one-time provision permanent. Why are teachers and support staff left out? The decision to include $25 million in differential compensation in the MFP does not guarantee that every teacher will receive a raise, only another stipend. And if they receive a differential pay for 1 year, there is no guarantee they will receive it in the future. Again, stipends will not provide teachers any financial security. It will only destabilize the profession further, because teachers, again, won't be able to predict their salary from 1 year to the next. Creating a stable workforce will provide better outcomes for our students. The same can be said of the $30 million, including the formula for tutoring. If you could provide qualified and experienced math and reading teachers at all grade levels, would the need for tutoring be so great? Why is it that we can prioritize an increase in so many other things in this formula, but not keep our promises to those who dedicated the work, contributed most to the increase in recent gains highlighted by Superintendent Brumley, the State Department, as well as this board? As noted in the MFP formula recommended before you, the Consumer Price Index has increased by 44% since 2008 and 9. Teachers have received less than $4,000 in permanent raises in the last decade, and support staff have received less than half of that. How can we expect anyone to become an educator or stay in the profession when from day one they make almost 30% less than other college graduates? And as time passes, the gap only increases. It is no exaggeration to say that in Louisiana, teachers can no longer afford to become or remain teachers. This funding formula will not provide educators with the financial security they need to buy a home, feed their families, or provide for their own children's education. Louisiana's teacher shortage will only worsen. Our best and brightest will choose other professions and choose to teach in other states. Louisiana's children will continue to be shortchanged. We owe it to the teachers, school employees, and students to invest in their futures. We can't afford to fall any further behind. Please keep your promise to educators and the students they educate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Mills, any questions for Mr. Clark? Dr. Mills.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. Today, I sit before you to express my rationale of why LAE did not support the recommendation from the MFP Task Force convening. As president of the Louisiana Association of Educators, I must express to you all the concern behind all of this. SCR 2 of the 2023 legislative session included a stipend of $2,000 for teachers and $1,000 for support professionals. It included a preamble resolution that urges Bessie to put the $196 million in level 1 of the MFP and make it a permanent pay raise in the 2024 legislative session. Our educator workforce is suffering. We need to fund permanent pay raises for all school employees in order to stop the bleeding regarding our inability to recruit and retain staff. Our neighboring states continue to move the needle of the Southern Regional average by funding healthy pay raises. There have been major discussions about choice for many, many years. Now more than ever, educators are making the choice as well to leave the state and work for higher salaries. Our educators are performing. If you walk into schools, the floors are shining, our children are making it to school, being fed and learning more and more each day to ultimately become productive citizens of society. Louisiana was #1 in the country in growth for 4th grade reading. Math scores improved from 50th to 44th. Reading scores improved from 48 to 38 in the country. Needless to say, our teachers and support professionals are working above and beyond the call of duty. Students without adequate support and trained professionals who are educators is considered a crisis. A crisis in our school buildings will be a crisis for our economy and most of all, our communities. We need to increase our educator salaries to retain our hardworking, proven, dedicated, and qualified educators here in Louisiana to protect the future of our most precious resources, which is all of our students across our wonderful state. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mills. Any questions? Dr. Mills? Thank you. Dr. Corbo?
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Dr. Keith Corbill, Executive Director of the Associated Professional Educators in Louisiana. Besides what's already been said, I simply want to point out, as all of us know within this economy, that inflation is permanent. Therefore, anything we should do in support of our educators and school staff needs to be permanent as well. Beyond the fact that so many neighboring states have had a newfound competitive edge that we must meet in Louisiana. So I once again, year after year, want to urge you to pass raises, pass significant raises, and to work well with your legislative peers or those over at the Capitol to make sure that there's further dedicated money to education in Louisiana. Beyond that, I also wanted to point out and praise the work of Dr. Kate Brumley and the department staff, because every single year, despite funding limitations, they seek innovative ways to try to award and recognize teachers and meet many of the needs and priorities of districts and support further innovative programs for student learning. I want them all to know that that work does not go unrecognized, that we see those attempts, and I wanted to encourage those further innovations and creative thinking year after year, because they don't go unnoticed and they are appreciated. So thank you all for what you do. I would encourage you and urge you to continue your advocacy for educators and to truly push for a permanent solution or a permanent raise. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Corbill. Any questions of him? Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, is there any, yep?
In regards to the amendment?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just need some clarity on this. In regards to, I know it's involved through the MFP, but Dr. Brooks, can you tell me if there's any fund source for dual enrollment within the MFP? I know if I recall, at the MFP meeting, maybe there was some discussion about it, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
there is not dedicated funding for dual enrollment, additional dedicated funding for dual enrollment in the MFP. The only funding source in terms of additional dollars directed to systems for operational type expenses would be the inflationary adjustment that we've made, which is the 22%, which is half of the 44% that was last year. So there's not dedicated dual enrollment funding available. I do know that my counterpart at Regents has made a request within her executive budget for additional dollars for dual enrollment.
All systems for all districts.
Yeah, so I'm trying to.
Because of the cost, you know that the cost is too.
I'm trying to remember the exact terminology that Commissioner Reed used, but basically we're trying, what the goal is to provide dual enrollment opportunities for all high school students before they graduate high school. And so she has a funding request within her budget for additional dollars for high students for dual enrollment. I don't know how that will be viewed by the administration or the legislature, but I do know that there is a dual enrollment request.
And the monies you just spoke about, 2022, can they utilize this?
Yeah,
They
so
desire?
yeah, sorry. So last year, we looked at the last time that the operational amount of funding was increased. It sits at $100 per student. It's sat at $100 per student since 2008, 2009. We looked at the CPI. Since that year, there's been a 44% increase in inflation, or inflationary increase. And so what this particular MFP does is it addresses half of that, which is 22%, and gets them closer to the real price of where things would be if you were to take it back to 08, 09 and account for inflation.
I guess the question here is if poor school performance, et cetera, if they're asking, requiring dual enrollment, advanced placement, why would there be some type of fund source?
I mean, the board is free to,
But it's not coming from, I mean, you don't have it coming from your department in regards to adding additional dollars for.
not specifically related to dual enrollment, no. I mean, this is after a number of conversations with legislators on both sides, leadership of both sides, the governor, and so that's where we landed, where we are. But obviously, if you have something that you would like to see subtracted or added, that's the will of the board.
Thank you.
I neglected to say early on that the MFP task force did meet a couple of weeks ago to look at a particular recommendation that is in front of you and ended up, albeit one vote short, this is what came from the MFP task force, which is what is in front of you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think that Dr. Brumley sort of touched on what I was going to get at. And we also always want to be very sensitive to the needs of our teachers. I know we're also balancing the practical side of what can be passed by the legislature. We go through this every year. For those who are watching, I sense, and it sounds like Dr. Brumley just confirmed that there is generally discussion with the administration, with the governor's office, with the legislature to get a sense of what's passable. Because at the end of the day, if we make a recommendation that doesn't pass, this refers back to the formula from last year. So we're also balancing that consideration. And it sounds like, Dr. Brumley, that has occurred, that discussion, and hence the recommendation.
Yes, sir. I mean, if I felt that there was the ability to add additional dollars for some of these requests, dual enrollment, or some of the requests that have been brought up earlier, I would certainly add them into the request. But you bring up a great point, Mr. Steele. It's balancing what we'd like versus realities and trying to find thread that needle. And so this is what, this is where we are. We think that this, we're not certain that this might even pass, but we think that this puts us in the best chance to push additional dollars to our school.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Mr. Harris?
I would like to say that, kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Castile and Dr. Brumley have said, there's been a lot of discussion. The legislature is looking at a very large deficit next year. That 0.45 is not getting new. But I'm happy that the executive budget contained $196 billion for at least a stipend. $2,000 per teacher in it. But unfortunately, I don't know that the legislature, looking at that kind of deficit, would have wanted a permanent raise in the MFP, and I think that message was clear. So I appreciate the governor doing what he could do with the 196. And then on top of that, I think it behooves us as a board to make sure that we don't set the precedent, that we send the MFPs to the legislature and they're rejected every year, and then we're stuck with the same funding levels from years back. So I appreciate the work that's gone into this from Dr. Brumley and you, Mr. Chairman, for putting this together, and I think we're getting the best that we can get, so I appreciate it.
Anyone else? So to make clear that we are voting on this MFP formula recommendation that is in front of you, so are there any objections?
Yeah, the technical edit, allow the department to make technical edits, that's going to be sure.
In addition to the approval, to add the provision that the department can make technical edits as needed, and that's typical throughout the process.
Everyone understand that? Are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none, then motion passes. Dr. Brumley, we talked about also at that MFP task force meeting a resolution with regards to the $2,000 stipend. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was pretty clear from individuals, the legislature, it's pretty clear from the governor's executive budget that they do
that there is an intent to push additional dollars towards teachers. And we know that teachers need those dollars, but they want to do it outside of the formula. And so what I brought forward to the MFP task force, along with Mr. Burton as the chair, was a resolution to support the approval of those stipends at the legislature. And so we brought that resolution to the MFP task force. That passed at the MFP task force. If the board would prefer to see, or if the board would like to see a similar resolution urging and requesting action of approving at a minimum a stipend for teachers, we can bring one of those tomorrow when this item is ratified as a supplement to what we send over to the legislature. And I'll add that MFP, not MFP, but that resolution encouraging legislators to provide the stipend, I believe, was unanimously supported as MFP council.
If I recall, it was unanimously supported. Ms. Davis?
Yes, that resolution is in the minutes of the MFP task force. If y'all wanted to go ahead and make a motion now to approve that, it was behind, it listed in the minutes. Y'all can do that now or wait till tomorrow.
That we found under item 7.1, the MFP task force minutes, that resolution is in those minutes in its entirety.
No
We
need
have
for
to
further
amend the
ado.
agenda tomorrow, if you want to do it tomorrow.
Welcome to the action be.
It's a
Just someone make a motion to approve the resolution that the MFP task force put forward.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Harris? Dr. Clark? So everyone understand that motion? Any objection? Hearing none, seeing none, motion approved. Any other item?
That concludes your agenda.
We are done. Thank you.